Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors have seen nothing but W's since that trade has happened. At the time of recording, they are 6-1 since the Jimmy Butler trade, 31-27 overall, putting them at the 8th seed. 18-6-5 for Jimmy since he has gotten to California. And Joe, the Jimmy Butler saga, especially for me, has been very back and forth, very personal. And a lot of people have now put Golden State in this whole new light and new category this season since the Jimmy acquisition. Where do you feel Golden State ranks right now? And has adding Jimmy Butler made Golden State a legitimate playoff threat?
Jimmy Butler reminds me of someone that gets into a lot of different relationships. So they break up
Mm.
a lot, but they get into new relationships. And when they're in that new relationship in the honeymoon phase, they give it their all. Okay, so Jimmy Butler will go from Sixers, Heat, and in both scenarios, going really, really hard, making sure he fights as much as he possibly can to get his team as far and deep into the playoffs as they possibly can to their full potential. But I think this is the first time he's been able to do that, and this is a brand new start. He seems re-energized. He looks like he's a lot more bouncy. He was depressed in Miami for a decent amount of time now. He's been very vocal about that. I think if he's able to turn that same mode on, now being surrounded by vets and a couple young players as well, and he's never had a threat around him like a Steph Curry. He's never had a unifying player, foundational piece like Draymond Green. Like they have just not had that. And if he can cause the other team to be worn down more and give and take stress away from Curry, which I think is probably the most underrated part with Curry getting so old, Jimmy being there takes a lot of attention away. Role players can score for sure. But although I don't consider Jimmy Butler to be a superstar, at one point, I could have considered him a superstar. Him being able to get the ball himself, run plays, score on himself in isolation, or score by himself in isolation, drive to the basket, wear down his defenders, and that's just something I don't feel Golden State had before, and not for a while, because Clay was not that at all before he left to go to the Mavericks. So now I'm really happy to see Curry getting some of the load off his back. He seems reinvigorated as well. If there's no injuries, I would definitely put them in top 10 in a top 10 discussion for title contention for sure.
So what is Golden State's like ceiling? Like what round do you think they can get to max?
I see their ceiling. I can see them. I would say I expect a second round exit, but I would not be surprised if they lost in the Western Conference Finals. But I don't think they will make it to the NBA championship. But I can see Curry, especially giving it his maybe last shot. He's getting close to 40 as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm in that same way. I wouldn't say they're contenders, but they're definitely a scary matchup. Like I think Golden State could beat like Oklahoma City and could beat a team like Memphis or even Houston in the first round. Like they are, and you had mentioned this too. They are a team of competitors. It is a winning culture in Golden State, which obviously Jimmy is all about, and that's what he wants and is used to. So it is not a quote unquote new situation for Jimmy. If with where he is at right now, he is going to a team that is looking for another piece to get them over the edge, and that's Jimmy Butler. And another stipulation of Jimmy Butler's, trade demands was that he wanted to, or I shouldn't say demands, but he felt like he wanted to go to a team where he was still going to be the guy, whether that was the best player or the number one option, however the case may be, he wanted to be the guy. In Golden State, while it is still very much Steph Curry's team, just like when Durant was there, and I am not saying Jimmy is Kevin Durant when he was there at all, but while it's Steph's team, the Warriors are looking at Jimmy like, yo, we just got playoff Jimmy, the guy, like I just said, who is putting us over the edge. When it comes time to why did we do this? Oh yeah, that's the reason. This what he's doing in the playoffs is going to be the reason. So I think if Jimmy can feed off that energy that they're going to give him, then he will still feel like that is the right role for him, being the quote unquote man. It is not like Pat Riley wasn't re-signing him or spending the money because he wasn't worth it per se, but Jimmy Butler is not 32 and he wanted an extension for a significant amount of money that it was not a smart financial decision for the Heat moving forward. But what that means is that it wasn't saying Jimmy Butler is no good. He just wasn't any good to Miami anymore. So bringing in a Jimmy Butler who still has possibly a lot to give in the playoffs can build off of that Dub Nation energy. Who knows, like I said, how far they can go. And I agree that I don't see them making the finals. I don't really see them making the conference finals. But I think in the West especially, all the fringe contenders, or not even fringe, all the contenders who could make the finals, there is a perfect scenario that they can get there. So Golden State, while it is unlikely they get there, it is certainly possible because of how seeding can fall, especially now that they're in the 8th seed and they're only going to get better. Joe, I think because of, like I said, all those different things and Jimmy being in a comfortable environment, especially with a guy like Draymond, who people I think felt like they were going to butt heads, but I think they're actually going to work together really well. So I think Golden State, while not a legitimate Western Conference threat, can be very scary for a lot of different teams who are legit contenders.
It's also sad and emotional for us because we are seeing the end of all these eras. So we do want to
Yeah.
see. I am rooting to see Curry and Butler versus LeBron and now Luca. And I'm really wanting to see all the vets and these different conferences do well because we want that last hurrah. And like I said, it might be Curry's last time, so they're going to be playing as hard as as hard as possible.
And I didn't think about this until you just said about old guys and stuff. Jimmy being in Miami, it was obviously all young guys, and he was, the elder statesman, and the vibe was rally around me and I'll show us where to go. Whereas in Golden State, like you had said, it's going to be, hey, who knows how much time we have left? And like I said, everyone's going to think with this addition, we have to do this. It's now or never. And if Jimmy can feed off that and also feed off the let's make a sour ending for these other old guys in the West, like the Durants and LeBrons and Jokic's and whatnot. So if they can get all that energy, which obviously is going to fuel Jimmy Butler, that's only going to make them a even scarier team.
I feel like with Jimmy and the way he plays now, they almost have like a wing version of the job Draymond does, facilitating and also holding down defensively. So that's a beneficial thing. But also the score distribution for the Warriors is a little bit worrying because you're relying on a lot of players to do their jobs. Curry's not going to be dropping 35 points a night anymore. I mean, some nights.
Yep.
Neither is Jimmy. Maybe Jimmy. Jimmy might do something crazy.
Yeah,
We are
come
relying on a
April
lot
that
of
will happen. Come April and
yeah,
May, that will
definitely.
start happening.
I guess that is one part where I'm like, okay, if we get to the end of the season, everyone's tired, maybe some injuries, maybe a Rockets that play tough with young players would excel there. Maybe Timberwolves will excel there. So we have to get to the end of the season and see where the seeding is for sure. Listen to the sound. I listen to the sound.